So, as many, if not all of you, have already heard the news here today, Auto Club Speedway is being reconfigured for the 2022 NASCAR season. The 2 mile low banked oval will no longer be a 2 mile low banked oval come 2022. After the 2021 NASCAR race there in the spring, after the West Coast swing, Auto Club Speedway will begin reconfiguration, a reconstruction into a half-mile high banked oval. Basically, imagine Martinsville with banking in the corners. That's what you're getting for Auto Club after the 2021 NASCAR season. So basically, everything about this. What does this all mean? Why did this happen? Why is it this racetrack? What's NASCAR going to do with this? What does this mean for NASCAR and its future? So the news was reported by The Athletic. Jeff Gluck tweeted about it. I think it was early afternoon when it first came up. It was, I think a little bit afternoon when it broke. I first saw it, had to do double take because I thought it was Jajuk, but instead it was Jeff Gluck that tweeted it, and I was like, that's kind of shocking. And as most, if not everyone, when they saw it, was like, that's strange. That's something that I never considered, like them revamping a whole track into something completely different than what it is right now. It is such a huge track, and now they've decided to take it down to half a mile. I've always joked about them doing something like this to Kentucky, where I say, hey, you repaved it. When you repaved it, you should just made it into like a 3/4 mile track, or do that with Texas as well. I always joked about doing that, but they actually did it with a track that I like, which is kind of crazy. So, on one hand, I'm sad about it because, in my opinion, All Club is a top 10 track on the schedule. It's a unique racetrack. It is a driver's racetrack. It has character. It hasn't been repaved since it opened back in 1997. But on the other bigger hand, it's a short track being added to the schedule, and I'm very, very happy about that. And it's a different short track. It's something that's not on the schedule currently. It's completely different. It's basically as if Martinsville and Bristol had a baby. Out pops Auto Club Speedway post 2021. So I'm very excited to see what it's going to be like. Would not be surprised at all if it is a major NASCAR race in 2022, like the last race to make it into the playoffs, or some huge playoff race like the finale or the final to make it into the finale, something like that. It's definitely probably going to have a major date in 2022. I doubt they just make it a West Coast swing early on the season. In my opinion, the hype would be real for it if they made it the finale, or if they made it some, maybe regular season finale or some cutoff race in the playoffs. That's really where I think it's going to be found on the 2022 schedule, is in those final 11 races, somewhere in there. So now let's go with, why was it this racetrack that they picked? Because it's a very weird racetrack, Auto Club Speedway. It's a good racetrack. There's two 2 mile ovals on the circuit. It's Michigan Auto Club, and Auto Club is far away the superior one over Michigan. So why did they pick Auto Club and not Michigan? And really, I think it all has to do with the market and stuff about that. So, Michigan, they're both owned by ISC, so let's get to that first. So obviously, NASCAR tracks are broken down into ownership groups: ISC, SMI, and then the independents, which is like Dover, Pocono, and Indianapolis. They are independent tracks. SMI owns a lot of the 1.5 milers, like you see at Charlotte or Kentucky or Texas. They own a lot of those. They own Bristol. Basically, has the track been ruined by repaves, then it's owned by SMI. ISC owns a lot of the better tracks and some tracks that have produced some good races in the past few years. Chicagoland they own Kansas, Auto Club obviously, they own Michigan, Richmond, Martinsville, Daytona, Homestead. They own all these racetracks, and a lot of them are very, very good. Watkins Glen they even own as well. So I mean, they have a lot of really good racetracks. So really, if you think about it, very hard to determine which one to reconfigure into something different. And you may be wondering, okay, why does it have to be an ISC track though? Well, NASCAR, I think it was last year in 2019, basically claimed all of ISC's assets. They bought them out basically. They were able to by ISC. Now it's clumped. NASCAR and ISC is basically one. So NASCAR ISC is NASCAR. NASCAR is ISC. That's basically how it goes. So now instead of it just being ISC is a thing, now NASCAR is basically ISC. SMI is the Smith family. It's like Bruton Smith and all those people that own those racetracks. So now basically NASCAR owns ISC. So any ISC tracks are now NASCAR's to deal with and play with. That's why they've been making some of the big moves, because NASCAR can literally say, this is our racetrack. We can do what we want as long as we have permission from, the county or whatever that's in, that we can do this, right? That's why a lot of the ISC tracks have been in the talks of revamps. Like, if you remember back earlier this year, Homestead was rumored to be demolished for condos. I believe Auto Club was the same story there. I believe it was rumored to be demolished for condos. Chicagoland was rumored to be demolished as well for like warehousing and stuff. All of which were proven false. Homestead is here to stay. Chicagoland is getting stuff added onto the property, but it's like outside. They might be getting rid of some parking or something, but it's not getting rid of the track. And now, obviously, Auto Club is actually just being reconfigured to fit more stuff onto its property. So, why Auto Club? Why'd they pick this racetrack of all the racetracks that they could have picked? A track which is, in my opinion, a top 10 track on the schedule. Here's why I think. First of all, it's in LA. It's basically in a suburb of LA, so it's in a huge high profile area. There's not really a short track in a high profile area. Think about Richmond. That's not a big town. Martinsville, where's that? And you think of Bristol. I mean, these aren't really big markets, This is definitely one of the biggest markets NASCAR has in terms of where the track is located. Just outside of Los Angeles. It is a huge kind of celebrity hotspot every single year where people go. A bunch of celebrities show up and stuff like that. Obviously, the five wide salute has become a thing at the beginning of the races. So NASCAR wants to stay in this area as long as possible, if not for forever. But that still doesn't answer the question, why are they reconfiguring it? They can stay with the 2 mile layout. Why are they reconfiguring this one? So it's possible that NASCAR wants to go the Daytona, Kansas route with this racetrack. It's a huge track, has a lot of area around it, a lot of property. If you don't know, basically the Kansas Daytona deal, Kansas has a casino on its on its property. It has some stuff around the track as well. Daytona basically has just it's basically a town there. It has a bunch of businesses just on the outside across the street. I think there's like I don't know. There's a bunch of restaurants there. It's basically like a small town there. You can have anything you want there. There's so much there. It's just a bunch of it's a business model that works well. You have all these businesses on the track. It kind of invites more people to go in. People buy the stuff from the businesses. Everyone profits off it. So, in my opinion, NASCAR is going to do this. It's a big piece of real estate that they own with this racetrack. So, they're going to make it into a half mile, very, very small. And then all around it, they're going to create stuff like we see at Daytona. They're going to create businesses and stuff like that to put on and kind of make it more valuable around that area and add more stuff around that area as well. So I believe that's the reason NASCAR is doing this, and also because people wanted more short tracks. Obviously, I am very sad to see the 2 mile version of Auto Club go, and I really hope that if they race there in 2021, obviously they're supposed to, but if this whole thing is still going on in California still like they have been, you never know if, they might have to either postpone it or go somewhere else for the race. So I'm very, very sad to see this racetrack go. Ever since I've started watching fully back in 2011, that 2011 race was good, had a great finish. 2012 was like an outlier. 2013 was amazing, one of the best NASCAR races I've ever watched. 2014 was really good. 2015 was good. 2016 was good. 2017 was decent. 2018, 2019 were and then 2020 obviously was very good as well. So it has been a very, very good racetrack over the years, and I'm sure if I go back and look through my rankings from 2011 to 2015 so far, it's definitely up there as one of the best tracks at that moment in terms of averages. It's a worn out surface. It's it invites multiple grooves, it invites tire management, tire fall off, and hasn't been repaved at all in its career. It has been 23 years since that track was built back in 1997. It hasn't been repaved once since then. It is on the original surface. I believe it is the oldest surface on the Cup schedule. And a lot of people that are against this are pointing to the whole thing of like, so some people who are, it's really weird because it's broken down into kind of areas of people who support people who don't. It's not really like, I don't know, everything's kind of has to be made into two sides now, if like you hate it or you love it. So the people who are supporting it are like, all Cups gonna have to be repaved, was gonna have to be repaved anyway, so why not just reconfigure it, right? And make it something different when you repave it, because then once you repave, it'll be one groove around the bottom. You won't be able to move out of the way. People will be sliding all over the place. It'll just be a huge mess. Every repave has a terrible race as its first race. In fact, has a terrible race in its first like 5 or 10 races at that track. So people are saying that, but then other people are like, yeah, but also Auto Club, when it was first built, right, and first paved, it also widened the groove very, very fast. And both sides have flawed arguments. Obviously, I believe Auto Club, they get use out of that surface for another at least 5 years. I doubt they would have to repave this in the next 2 to 3 years. But for the people that say Auto Club would just widen back out fast anyway, that's also kind of wrong. ISC, while normally being better at repaves than SMI. They repaved Kansas in 2012 and it's widened out to all these grooves. When they reconfigured Homestead, it made it better. All these racetracks that they've made better with repaves or with reconfigurations, right? But they ruined one, and that was Michigan. They killed it. Now you need PJ1 to even run up 2 grooves. There is literally maybe 1.5, 2 grooves that you can run around a track which is 4 or 5 lanes wide. You cannot run anywhere close to the wall there without PJ1. If you run up there, you're basically out of control sliding. So it's kind of like, would they do that with Auto Club? And even if they did, right? The pavement they used back in 1997 is not the pavement they're going to use in 2020 whatever. Back in 1997, pavement wasn't nearly as good as it is in 2020 whenever they would have paved it, right? So if they say repavement 2025, right? Who knows? Maybe they'll find some new fancy pavement that they'll use, and it will never wear out. You think about Charlotte, right? That thing looks like it's still brand new. It looks like it was repaved 5 years ago. In reality, it was repaved back, 2006? So it's been there for a long time, 14 years, right? And it looks like it was repaved like 5 years ago. It's crazy. So with Auto Club, obviously all the repaves when tracks were first being built back then, the track wore out faster. Like Atlanta wore out fast when it was reconfigured. Chicagoland, Kansas, all these tracks, they wore out fast, but they're also late 90s, early 2000s builds, right? Now with stuff being repaved in the 2010s and the 2020s, that pavement just doesn't wear out like it used to because they have better pavement now. They use better pavement when paving. We saw it with Michigan. They use better pavement, and it's not wearing. It's not really a tracks problem. It's the pavement problem. If they use the pavement that they used to pave Auto Club back in 1997 to repave Michigan in 2012, I have no doubt in my mind that by at least 2015 we would have had some sort of multi-groove racing there. So obviously, I think they could have gotten a few more years out of Auto Club, but this is something that needs to happen now, especially with them basically promising new tracks and more short tracks coming to the schedule in the next few years, right? But on that note, I also want to see more, like, not real short tracks, because this will be a real short track, but more short tracks that are already here. Think about Iowa, it's there. I wouldn't consider Gateway a short track, but it is a shorter track. It's like New Hampshire and Dover. You call them shorter tracks, you get excited because it's something at least different. I'd love to see Gateway on the schedule. You think about all the other short tracks. It's kind of hard though too, because what tracks can hold a NASCAR Cup Series event? Which tracks can handle that are short tracks? It's just kind of hard. Short tracks around America are made for grassroots racing and stuff like that. So it's very hard to find a short track. So NASCAR might need to reconfigure some of their tracks and do stuff like that. But here's another added benefit with this happening so soon. With this happening in 2022, right? I hope to God they don't repave Atlanta by then. And if this thing succeeds, which I hope it really does, I hope it is one of the best moves NASCAR has made in a long time. I hope this thing rakes in money and puts on really good racing and draws a good crowd to the track, right? If this thing works out, I I really hope to God that SMI sees this and then says we're going to turn Atlanta into a short track. Because here's where we stand with that. They have to repave Atlanta soon. It is something that they keep pushing off, and we basically a lot of people want them to keep pushing off because it's like, it's just such a huge characteristic of eating tires up and stuff like that, right? But the sad reality is they have to do it at some point, right? Um, I hope that this works out and that when they have to repave Atlanta, maybe they just put it into a short track. Because you think about what NASCAR said about their future of what tracks get contracts and whatnot. They want tracks to have they want tracks to basically fill up their grandstands. I forget the number that they said, but they want tracks to be what 3/4 full or something in terms of attendance, something like that, 60% full. They want them to look full. They don't want it to be like, oh, you got 50% of the fans in there, you got 40% of the fans, which means tracks have to take down seating, which is maybe why Auto Club is doing this as well. A little bit less seating because they have a lot of stands there. Over the years, it's gotten less and less and less. With Atlanta, same story there. They have a lot of seating, but people going there is taking a huge dip down. Make it into a short track, put less seating in, more people go because it's a short track. Everyone benefits in the end. So, I mean, honestly, let's just do what we did in the late 90s and early 2000s where everyone decided to build 1.5 milers. Let's just take a lot of those, right? And let's make them back into short tracks. I mean, keep Charlotte because it was basically the original 1.5 miler, right? You can keep that. And maybe keep a D-shaped mile and a half like Kansas, but then like with Chicagoland, make that into a short track, make Kentucky into a short track, make Texas into a shorter track, make them all different. That's what I'm really glad that they're doing with Auto Club because in my opinion, tracks should at least look different if you're looking at it from like an angle. So like if you go to Texas and Charlotte, I mean you might not be able to spot the differences in the banking at some parts of the racetrack, and it's just kind of hard. Um, if they were to just build another Martinsville bit, well, that's just another Martinsville. It's like it's now we're getting three Martinsville dates. It's like that's kind of it's not really boring, but it's kind of repetitive. I like that they're taking a differing stance. Like, hey, it looks like Martinsville from above, but if you're actually there, it's like Bristol Bank turns, which is very very cool. And I'm excited to see what it does. I am excited, while also sad that the 2 mile track is going. But change is needed in sports like this. We've been calling for change for years and years and years for more short tracks. We're getting our fourth short track on the schedule, and I hope that we get some more um, different tracks. Who knows if Rockingham ever makes a comeback, because I know that was a whole thing that was being teased at in 2019, 2018, that the Rockingham Speedway official Twitter account was like at NASCAR safety meetings and at NASCAR briefings and whatever, and then that account has since gone silent since like mid to late 2019. I believe it was like a year ago when they posted their last thing. It was 2019. So who knows what's happening with that? Did the owners forget about it? Is it just waiting for a NASCAR return? Is it just sitting there lying and dormant until we can announce that it's back? I don't know. I don't think North Wilkesboro is ever coming back with how bad that track is, but Rockingham definitely has a shot because that track has been kept in decent shape and can definitely be, overhauled, especially since from what I saw, they had actually done stuff to it. The previous owners, I don't know if they're still the owners, but the people who had it back in 2018, 2019, they did some stuff to it, got it back into at least decent shape, if not workable shape. But yeah, so more different tracks would be cool. We'll just have to see, though. Obviously, this is a different racetrack, and we'll see if this is maybe the new standard moving forward for NASCAR. So that's it. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you guys next time.